Hi, besties! Recently, a real scandal broke out around the incident with Lady Gaga. The cancelled Gigi suddenly returned to the game, which further angered the community. Meanwhile, the scandalous actions of B-Plays began to surface. The drama escalated to the point that B was eventually completely removed from the team. And there are many more scandals that I was simply shocked by, and I'm sure you will be too. So watch the video from beginning to end to be aware of all the details. Let's not waste any time and get started. Recently, Dress to Impress hosted a massive event with Lady Gaga, and honestly, the community is still buzzing with mixed feelings. At first, everything looked stylish, colorful, and full of hype, exactly what fans expected from a collaboration with such a big star. But as the event went on, the excitement quickly started to fade. Many players felt that instead of a fun, interactive moment, they got something overly long, slow, and nothing like the way it was advertised. Because of this, frustration spread fast, and what was supposed to be a celebration turned into a full-blown controversy across the community. Just a day before the update, we made a post urging everyone to act quickly if they wanted the chance to meet Lady Gaga. This naturally created huge expectations among players, since it sounded like they would get a real in-game interaction with her. But even at that point, some people were skeptical, questioning if the promise was a bit too good to be true. Then, during the actual event, players noticed that the special server list didn't just include regular fans. Well-known developers and influencers, including B herself and Gigi, were also there. That's when suspicions grew stronger. To many, it looked like only a small group of chosen people got real access, while the rest of the community was left watching from the sidelines. Instead of the true meet and greet they were hoping for, players started to feel like the whole thing had been staged. This left a lot of people disappointed, with many saying that the event was more about marketing than giving fans the moment they were promised. This sparked a wave of outrage across the community. Players felt like they had been used for hype instead of being given a real chance to meet their favorite artist. In Discord, angry posts and screenshots started spreading quickly, with players openly accusing the developers of being unfair and manipulative. But instead of apologizing or even giving an explanation, the moderators began deleting messages and banning anyone who dared to criticize. That's when the situation truly spiraled out of control, and the tension inside the community only grew stronger. At that point, Gigi was already a highly controversial figure, having been cancelled long before because of past scandals. So when players saw her included in the Lady Gaga event instead of regular fans, the reaction was immediate shock and anger. For many, it felt like a complete betrayal. A space that was supposed to celebrate the community was being handed to someone who shouldn't have been there at all. This only reinforced the idea that the Dress to Impress team cared more about protecting their inner circle than giving opportunities to real fans. And things didn't stop there. After Gigi's sudden appearance, even more serious issues started surfacing. Former Dress to Impress moderators began speaking out, revealing what had allegedly been happening behind the scenes. One of them claimed that Nini had acted inappropriately toward underage moderators, and when this was reported to Gigi, she did nothing to address it. Instead of taking action immediately, Gigi shifted responsibility onto others, and only after days of pressure was Nini finally removed. For the community, this was proof that the problems went far beyond B. More and more players started to believe that Gigi herself had been aware of serious misconduct but chose to stay silent until the backlash became impossible to ignore. For many fans, that was the final straw, a moment that turned disappointment into full-on mistrust. When the community started demanding answers, B released what she called an apology. But instead of taking responsibility, she shifted the blame back onto the players themselves. Her post included lines like, "We thought you'd have enough common sense and even sorry, but we don't care." For many fans, this wasn't an apology at all, it felt like pure disrespect. What was supposed to calm people down only added more fuel to the fire, and players felt like their frustration was being mocked rather than addressed. In the middle of all this chaos, one of the moderators, Ender, tried to suggest a simple but constructive solution. He proposed creating a dedicated feedback channel after every update where anyone could share their thoughts, both positive and negative. It could have been a small step toward building a real dialogue between the community and the dev team. But instead of supporting the idea, leadership dismissed it outright, showing once again that player voices weren't a priority. As the outrage in Discord continued to grow, the management gave moderators a very strange order: completely shut down all discussions in public chats. They were told not to respond to complaints, not to explain the situation, and to just let people vent without interference. To many, this looked like an attempt to sweep the problem under the rug rather than solve it. Some moderators even admitted publicly that the team wasn't following its own rules, which only made the situation look worse. Eventually, Ender had enough and resigned. In his final message, he wrote that this day revealed the true face of the team: constant backstabbing, immaturity even from the community manager, and a total lack of proper leadership. He openly called it horrible management and left, posting a public screenshot as proof that the real issue lay within the team's structure, not just in the players' complaints. For many in the community, his resignation felt like confirmation that their concerns had been valid all along. After Ender's resignation, other former moderators also started speaking out. One admitted that he had stayed silent for a long time, but the real reason behind his departure was B's poor leadership and the blatant bias shown by higher admins. His story confirmed what many already suspected: the problems weren't just isolated incidents, they were systemic. The toxic atmosphere inside the team had driven many people away from Dress to Impress, and those stories were finally coming to light. Players who tried to share screenshots or openly criticize B and the team quickly found themselves punished. In the official Dress to Impress Discord, people were hit with timeouts, banned from writing in chats, blocked from leaving reactions, and even restricted from joining voice channels. To many, this looked like a direct attempt to silence criticism rather than address the issues. For a lot of fans, it became the final sign that leadership simply didn't want to hear the community. And instead of fixing the situation, the developers introduced a strange new channel called Positive Notes for B. The idea was supposedly to let players leave kind messages, but the community immediately saw it as an artificial way to drown out the wave of negativity. It felt less like a space for positivity and more like an attempt to hide all the criticism behind fake support. Not long after that, B posted yet another apology, but once again, it didn't come across as genuine. Instead of admitting mistakes, she doubled down, insisting that it had been clear from the beginning that the event was just a Q&A and a virtual meet and greet. She added that it should have been obvious that 500,000 people couldn't all fit into one server. For fans, this wasn't an explanation, it was an insult. Rather than addressing the miscommunication, B made it sound like the fault lay with the community itself for misunderstanding. To many, it felt like their hopes and excitement were being dismissed as nothing more than their own mistake. B then tried to clarify the situation by saying that the special server with influencers and developers was only for technical purposes. According to her, just 2 influencers and 3 contest winners had been invited, and everything was supposedly streamed to all players across every server. But for the community, this didn't feel like clarity, it felt like another excuse. Many saw it as yet another attempt to convince players that everything was transparent, even though that lack of honesty was exactly what had caused so much distrust in the first place. At the end of her message, B also attempted to explain her own sarcasm. She insisted that no offense had been intended and that the team always jokes with the audience, especially on Discord. But instead of sounding lighthearted, it came off as dismissive. For the community, this wasn't an apology, it was deflection. People felt that rather than admitting her words were poorly timed and unprofessional, Bea was trying to pass it off as a joke. That only deepened the feeling that she didn't fully grasp the seriousness of the situation. Only after an overwhelming wave of criticism did Bea release a second apology, this time with a noticeably different tone. She no longer shifted blame onto the community. Instead, she admitted that her reactions during the livestream were unprofessional, that her words lacked empathy, and that the responsibility was entirely hers. Bea promised to be more thoughtful in the future, to listen to feedback more carefully, and to communicate with greater clarity. In this follow-up apology, she also acknowledged that the event's marketing had been misleading and that the team had genuinely messed up. Bea promised that future announcements would be clearer, so that players would know exactly what to expect. She even admitted that parts of the event dragged on and felt boring, calling it a first attempt and a learning experience for the developers. The message sounded far more genuine than her earlier words, but for many fans, the damage had already been done. Finally, Bea emphasized that the event was never meant to be exclusive or to shut out the fan base. She explained that the technical room was necessary for the dev team and that influencers and contest winners were there due to prior agreements. She underlined that all players are important to the community and promised changes to ensure this kind of situation wouldn't happen again. To close, Bea asked fans not to blame Discord moderators, influencers, or contest winners, stressing that they had no control over how the event was organized. She thanked the community, admitted that the team hadn't delivered what players deserved, and finished with a simple but powerful line: "We should have done better the first time." In the end, the Dress to Impress team finally made an official statement. Amoya confirmed that after an internal review, Bea was no longer part of the team. She emphasized that all accusations were taken seriously, and that this decision was considered the only correct step forward. Players were also told that there would be no more apologies from Bea. From now on, she would be responsible for her own actions. After Bea's removal, her Discord account no longer carried the community manager title, but appeared as just a regular user. The only things left were her platform links and a few roles, but without any admin privileges. For the community, this was the final proof. Bea no longer had any influence over the game. And here we have the bigger picture. The situation turned out messy and clear and handled in the wrong way. And honestly, if you dig deeper, you could probably uncover even more issues, not only tied to Bea, but maybe even to the whole Dress to Impress team. Still, to be fair, the community also reacted quite harshly at certain points, which added fuel to the drama. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Was the team fully at fault, or did the community blow things out of proportion? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to see what you all have to say. That's all, friends. Thank you for watching to the end. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to keep posting videos regularly. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye, besties!